Good morning, everyone. Glad to be here. I was expecting Frank and them to sing at least a couple songs this morning, so you wouldn't have to tolerate me so long this morning. I offered Caleb $20 to preach this morning, and he declined. So if you don't like the message today, blame Caleb over here this morning. I'm so glad to be back to Underwood Grove this morning, and honored to be here, and missing a lot of faces today, but that doesn't change the infallible fact that we can still have church this morning. It doesn't change the fact that God will still meet with us today, and I've been looking forward to coming. Brother Brian called and left a message for us to come, and I was excited for that appointment. And remember, Brother Brian and their family today is they're on vacation, and God gives them safe travels back and forth. And I will say this, a pastor needs a break. And we all need a break from time to time. And I encourage you to remember them, that God just give them a wonderful week of vacation, and they can go enjoy themselves and much deserved, much needed time. And today I want you to pray for us this morning. We desire your prayers. And Brother Brian sent the message to come, and we began to try to prepare for the message, and we did that. And I'm truly standing this morning and trusting God. And if you'll just tolerate us just a second, I had studied for a message, prepared for a message, and had everything all detailed out, Brother Frank. And yesterday and this morning, God truly changed our heart and changed the message, changed the direction. And I'm honestly going to lay truth out on the table. I'm standing here trusting God for the message today. And it's one of those situations, Brother Caleb, when you think you've got it all figured out, and you think you know exactly what you're going to do and you're going to use, and God says, watch this. And yesterday, if you'll just hang with me just a few minutes, and for you that may not know me or know my story, and I'm a minister for our law enforcement, and we have a lot of calls. And so yesterday, and I'll say this with so much, I'll try to keep this in context because I know we're videoed and this is on Facebook, and I want to say this with so much respect. But yesterday we had a 911 call, and that call came out, and we knew it was a very important call. And but I found myself right smack dab in the middle of the whole scene. And I was coming back from Knoxville, coming into Claiborne County, and I literally found myself sitting right smack dab in the middle of an automobile accident. And there were 4 cars involved in that accident. And it was a very bad situation. And I jumped out of the truck, and I had my police radio, and I was screaming in that radio because I just panicked. And I was screaming in that radio for help, and calling the 911 dispatchers to get the people down there to get help there as fast as we could possibly get it there, because it was life-threatening. I'll try to do this without getting emotional this morning. And God spoke to me this morning when I got up, and He said, you go tell them this morning it's a 911 call today. And somebody really needs to hear this call. And it's an important call because it's so life importance to you today. And I want you to hear that call just one more time, that there is help for you today. And as we went through that process yesterday, Brother Caleb, it was so tragic and so important that we did everything we could to get those people to help as fast as we could get it. And we were screaming for the air ambulances to get there to help them so they didn't They weren't deceased. As we went through that process yesterday, and I guess the emotional part of it's still there today, and what we saw and how we dealt with that. And we see that on a daily basis. We deal with that on a daily basis. That wasn't nothing new, but just that one time I found myself right in the middle of the situation and found myself as those cars, as they wrecked, they were wrecking all around me, but there I sat right in the middle of it. But God put us there for a specific purpose. You know that? God put us there that we could be of help to them. And this morning, God has brought us to the church today. And we're here this morning, church. We're here for a purpose this morning. And God has a plan. God has a purpose of why that we're sitting right here today, Brother Caleb. And sometimes we'll look around and we'll say, well, the pastor ain't here. Our family ain't here. But listen, hey, can I say this? Good news today. God bless. You're here today. And God's here today. So that is the key ingredients that's needed right there, that we can get the help we need, Brother Caleb. Listen, the pastor or I or no other preacher can't really fix what you need today. What you need is a rhythm up from Jesus Christ, the Savior, the one that died on the cross for us, the one that loves us, the one that gave everything for us, the one that knows us and understands us more than anybody else today. I thought Brother Frank was speaking a while ago, and what we really need to understand is blessed assurance that your name is written in the Lamb's Book of Life today. I don't know your story. I don't know your situation this morning. I don't know how long you've been attending church, and I don't know if you're a member of the church or what your story is today, but listen, the most important thing I could say to you today is your name written in the Lamb's Book of Life today. That's the part we want to get to this morning. I know, without a doubt, I probably have used this here before, and I got up this morning, man, I just went right back to this verse today. And I want to read these couple verses to you, and I won't be before you very long, but I would ask you just open your heart just for a few minutes. In 2 Corinthians, in the first chapter of 2 Corinthians, and Paul makes a statement down there in the 23rd verse, and just a line in that verse right there that stands out to us today, and I want to read that to you this morning. It says, "Moreover, I call God for a record upon my soul." And Paul's making a statement yet, and has the rest of that verse, and it says that to spare you I come not as yet unto Corinth. But he asks the question right there, "Moreover, I call God for a record upon my soul." And this morning, that's what I want you to ask yourself this morning. And it's a personal question. It's not about looking across the aisle to nobody else and seeing what somebody else's answer is. It is a personal question for you to ask yourself this morning. God, is my name in the record book? God, is my name there today? And Paul answered that question over in Philippians, and he said this right here in the first chapter of Philippians. He said, "Because I have it you in my heart, insomuch as both in bonds and in the defense and confirmation of the gospel, ye all are partakers of my grace. For God is my record." You see, I don't know how long your name may have been on the church roll this morning, but if I would have just a thought or a topic, it's a 911 call this morning. It's a 911 call that you research and search out where you are this morning and where you stand with the Lord this morning. And there's nothing more important today. I'm so glad that you're sitting in the seat that you're sitting in this morning. I'm so glad that you made that trip to the house of God. I'm so glad that you claimed that place this morning. But moreover than anything else, I want you to have that 1,000% assurance that you know today that you're saved by the grace of God and that your name's written in the Lamb's Book of Life. My friend, you can sit in the church till you're old and gray-headed, but if you've never come to the place in your life that you made that decision, Brother Caleb, and that you know that you're saved today and that everything's all right, there's going to come a day in your life that it is going to be the last day that you live upon this earth, and there's going to come a day when, brother, that all the 911 calls that can be made to the 911 center is not going to fix what's going to happen to you in the end, my friend, because there's going to come a day when death is going to come to our doorstep, and the end of life is going to come. And just like it happened yesterday, sometimes it comes so unannounced. Sometimes it's not cancer that we sit and we go through sickness with for weeks and days and months, or the horrible diseases that people go through, and the nurses that take care of people that see these things and they deal with these things on all levels and all different situations. But as my sister said just a while ago on the altar, when you feel that all hope's gone and you feel that there ain't no hope, I'm here to tell you this morning, there's hope today. There's a God that made a way for you, and you may feel like today that nobody understands, and they may not understand, but I'm telling you, there's a God that understands what you have need of today. And it is Jesus Christ. He is your 911 call today. And He knows you today so well. And you see, here's where we are most of the time, Brother Caleb. We're so good at styling and profiling. We're so good at getting up on Sunday morning and put our Sunday go to church clothes on. We come to church and we sit in the pew. But in our hearts, God knows where we are, Brother Frank. God knows this morning. God knows that you're here. And God knows your heart today. And God knows right what you need today. Hey, but listen, it's up to you today to answer that call. There comes a time, as Brother Sam taught in Sunday school this morning, there comes a time that we have to make a choice, and that we have to choose to get up out of that pew and say, God, there's got to be some changes in my life today. All the help in the world and all the resources that are available today, it would be just like yesterday when all the screaming for help was put out. And what if all the first responders come down there to a scene of the most horrific situation that ever was, and all the first responders just come down there, Brother Sam, and we just sat down and opened a bottle of water and started sitting there telling stories and drinking water, and nobody offered to help. You know what the church is trying to do this morning? The church is saying there's help. The church is trying to help. But you know what? We have to be willing to receive that help today. and us that are the ones that have the resources available, that we can help those that are around us. And sometimes we sit in our pews and we don't realize that the person sitting right beside of us very well may be the very one that's lost today and that needs to be saved. And it doesn't matter how long you've been coming to church. It doesn't matter how long your name's been on the church roll. It doesn't matter what position you have in the church. It doesn't matter what your story is. Are you saved today? Are you saved today? Listen, been on this road just a little while. I've seen preachers that sat right on the front row that was lost. Get up off the pew, make their way down to an altar and bow down and get saved. I've seen deacons in the church that's head office that's got up off of the pews and make their way down and get saved. I've seen piano players that set up behind the piano and, brother, make their way to the altar and get saved. And listen, today, I'm begging you, there's a 911 call that's going out to you today. Brother, if you're lost and you know in your heart that you're lost and you know that there's no joy and no peace there, there's a specific call given for you today. You have the option today of responding to that and moving to that. You see, when that 911 call goes out in our 911 system, most everybody in the whole entire fleet gets that call. And we all know, when that call comes out, you drop everything, whatever you're doing, it's laid aside and you go just as fast and quick as you can get there. Do you understand this morning that the importance of that call that's being given to you today? You're the one that's in trouble. The one that's sitting here today, Brother Frank, that's lost, don't have nothing to bring to the table, don't have anything to tell today. Yet you sit here and you know in your heart of hearts that, well, preacher, I come to church, I live a good life, I work, I take care of my family, but are you saved this morning? Are you saved today? Oh, that's the most important part. Listen, it don't do no pastor. Brother Brian is one of the best preacher men. We could name an endless list of good preacher men that we count and love so dearly, but there's not a one of them that can stand over your casket when death comes and the end of life comes. Brother, the Word says, as a tree falls, so shall it lie. And listen, I'm just going to lay truth out there. When you die lost, my friend, and you leave this world without any hope, it won't make a factor of how many times you sat in the church. It won't make a factor of how much work you done at the church. What will matter is your name recorded in the Lamb's Book of Life. Sam, it don't matter how many messages I've preached. It don't matter how many miles I've traveled. It don't matter of all the stuff we've done. All it'll come right down to is your name written in the Lamb's Book of Life this morning. That's the bottom line right there. Is your name recorded there? And listen, when we ask that question this morning, it's a yes or no answer. There ain't no gray area. And see, when you lay that question out on the table and you ask people that question right there, are you saved? And listen, I'm just like this right here. There ain't no need of beating around the bush all day to get to a point. It's a straight up question. And any church person, anyone's church member should be able to respond to that with meekness and gladness. Let me tell you, preacher, about my testimony. Let me tell you what God's done for me. Oh, and I'll tell you, if you've ever stood in your church and you've shared that testimony, Brother Caleb, I'll say it like this. I believe if you've ever told it once, you'll want to tell it twice. I believe if you've ever shared it with someone once, it will have to be told again, because Jeremiah made this statement right here. He said it was like a fire set up in my bones and I couldn't contain it. I'll say this, if you've been saved by the grace of God, you may not be the most outspoken person in the church, and you may not come down here and testify on the altar, but I'm saying this right here, church, somewhere along the way, there's going to come a time in your life that you're going to want to tell what God's done for you. But if you don't have anything to bring to the table, and you don't have anything to tell this morning, that's a fixable problem. That's such a easy, fixable problem this morning. And he made it so simple. He made it so simple that this right here, he said, Paul said this, that ye are all partakers of my grace. He didn't leave nobody out, Brother Frank. He didn't leave the most vilest, meanest person that's ever been on the face of this earth. He made a way that whosoever will, let him come. And he simplified it like this right here. And he said, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. You see, he made the 911 call a long time ago for you. And God has already prepared a way for you. That call went out from Calvary when he hung on a cross, and God sent the very best heaven had for you. He made sure that every single person that was ever born into this world had a way of escape from the things that we're going to face down through life's way. And yes, we'll go through some trials, we'll go through some stuff in life, but I'm telling you, there's a God in heaven. If you've never been to Calvary, you've never made that trip to the cross, I'm telling you this morning, he's asking you to. Preacher, what do I do to be saved? Well, there's a process in there. You can't be saved till you know you're lost. You can't be saved till you understand what you're being saved from. I remember as a little 9-year-old boy sitting on the front row, and I remember this, Brother Caleb, church never did bother me. Church never did bother me. The preaching didn't bother me. Dad and Mom took me all that time to growing up to church, and church never did bother me, Brother Caleb, until one Sunday morning I come one trip too many. And I remember this, sitting on the front row, and my brother on the other end, and us slamming songbooks back and forth across the pew to each other. And let me just say this, back in those days, Mom and Dad didn't allow us to move out of the seat much, but for some reason that Sunday morning, we was both on the front row, slamming songbooks back and forth across the seat. And there was an old preacher man got up that morning. He began to preach about Jesus loves you. And there was a 911 call went out, Frank. You know who that 911 call was for? This little lost sinner boy. And Sam, you know what? All of a sudden I heard that old preacher begin to preach about a man named Jesus Christ that died on a cross, that loved me and gave the best heaven had for me. And all of a sudden he ran around that pulpit and he screamed out just as loud as he could scream, "Don't you want to be saved?" And I looked at my brother and I said, "Stop." And I got up in that seat and I sat down and I began to look up at that great old big preacher man, Brother Caleb, that was preaching his heart out about a man that died on a cross for me. And I began to listen to every word he said. Now, I don't know about your story. I don't know how long you was lost. I don't know how long you went through conviction. But I'm going to tell you something. In a minute, that old man running around that pulpit and he screamed out again, "Don't you want to be saved?" Boy, that right there began to happen. My heart was beating away. And all of a sudden I found myself saying, "Yes, I want to be saved." In a few minutes, he ran around that pulpit one more time. And he screamed out just as loud as he could, "Don't you want to be saved?" And listen, I didn't wait for altar call. I didn't look over at Mom and Dad to see if I could get up and move. I just stood up and I said, "Yes, I want to be saved." Now I come on to the altar and I got down. The church come and prayed with me, Brother Frank. But you know where I got saved at? You know where God saved me at? The very minute that I stood up right here and I said, "Yes, I want to be saved." That's how quick God will save you. The very millisecond that you'll say yes in the heart and the very millisecond that you'll accept Him. I'm telling you, the 911 call went out that Sunday morning, and brother, it was calling the call and saying, "God, I need a remedy, I need a Savior, and I need help." And I'm telling you, as quick as I said yes in the heart, I'm telling you that call was answered today. How bad are you looking for help this morning? How desperately are you searching for a remedy for your problem today? And can I say this? It's so simple. And it's such an easy fix, but boy, we complicate it so much. And here's what we do, Caleb. We'll sit there and we'll hold on to that seed and we'll clamp down and we'll just say, "Wait till next Sunday. It's just not right now. It's just not the right time." That's what Satan will tell you every time you come to church. But can I tell you how simple it is today? It's just believe on Him. Oh, I'll tell you what Acts said. He said, "Neither is there salvation in any other. For there is none other name under heaven given among men whereby we must be saved." There ain't no other way you're going to ever get there. There ain't no other way you're going to ever be saved. It's still, as it was years ago, it's still the same today. You must believe on Him. You must believe on Him. How many 911 calls is it going to take for you before you realize that you need to answer that call? How many times how many messages is your pastor going to have to stand here and scream and preach and pray and mourn and cry on your behalf, trying to get you the help that you need? You ever hear that old country cliche, you can't help somebody that won't help themselves? Hello? Sometimes all the messages that come from this pulpit to us, and what do? We'll sit there and we'll say, "Well, it's a good message, preacher." But the problem is we forget to apply it to our life. The problem is we forget to take a stand in front of the mirror and say, "God, that was my part." The problem is, Brother Frank, it's easy. Oh, it's so easy just to shove it across the aisle and get in the car and go down the road to home and make this sarcastic remark. "Well, boy, the preacher burnt them up today." We fail to take our part of it. We fail to self-analyze what is meant for us. Just as my sister said a while ago, there's hope for you. There is hope for you today. You're still alive and you're still breathing. There's hope for you today. There's a remedy for your problem today. And it comes down to the simple thing. Do you want to choose Him? Just as Brother Sam made the statement in Sunday school, man, what a lesson. Just as Mordecai and Esther in the book of Esther, they had to make a choice. There come a time in their life when difficult times come and troubled times come. They had to make a choice which side of the fence they was going to stand on. Listen, it's awesome. It's so awesome that you're sitting in church this morning. But there comes a time in your life that you have to make a choice that you're going to stand with the church. You're going to stand with the Lord. You're going to get in the church and you're going to become active and part of the church, Brother Sam. It takes more than just coming in and sitting down and crossing our legs and being in the church. It takes a decision in our life sometimes that we're going to get involved. And sometimes, as that old saying is, as I tell a lot of the young men and women and the men and women at the jail system, that there comes a time you have to make a decision. And sometimes you got to cut a rope with friends that you're acquainted with. Sometimes you got to cut a rope with family that you're involved with. There's things that you're going to have to make a decision in your personal life that has to come down to you're going to choose the ways of the Lord or you're going to hang on to the world. But you can't stand straddle of the line and be a part of the church and be a part of God's work. Because it comes simple as this, Brother Frank. He laid out some requirements for us to live by. And He didn't just lay them out for the preachers. He laid it out for all of us. We all sat at the same table. And sometimes, as I say it like this, sometimes we don't like that, as we say it, the bill cap slap in the face when truth finds us right where we are. And I believe this with all my heart. God spoke to your heart this morning. God has sent you one more 911 call. What is that 911 call? That 911 call is you understanding the trouble that you're in. That's what that 911 call is about today. You see, can I just be honest, Brother Caleb? I've sat right here on this front row, on more than a front row. Hear my pastor or a man of God get in this pulpit and preach the infallible truth to me. And know without a shadow of a doubt, Brother Frank, right where the message was going. And have the audacity to sit there and do nothing about it. Have we not all been in that boat? When the Word clearly finds us right where we are, Brother Caleb, but yet we'll cross our legs, fold our arms, and say, and go out the door. When in reality, I've said this so many times, church, if I'd done what was right in the eyes of God, I'd have got out of the car and I'd have crawled to the altar. And I'd say, God, fix me. God, help me. God, let me do better. You see, when the 911 call comes in our life and we know that we're in trouble and we know that we need help and we know that we need the Lord, whether we've been saved or whether we just strayed away from God, whatever condition we're in, brother, I'm telling you, when the 911 call comes to us and God sends us a very plain message that we need help in our life and that we need to change direction in our life, brother, I'm telling you, God knows right where we all are today. But we have a choice. We have a choice today. I told the 911 dispatchers yesterday after all of the charade was over about 12:30 last night when we finally got to go home. And I went out there to apologize to them because I was screaming. Brother Caleb, I was screaming in the radio to get help. I got emotionally involved, and they train us and they teach us to remain calm. Don't get excited. Deal with the situation, but don't let your emotions overtake you. And the first thing I did when I jumped out of that truck was I went to screaming on that radio. Hurry, please hurry, please hurry. I'm screaming for you this morning because I know you need help today. But you see, I can't come back to that pew and grab you by the arm and jerk you out of that pew and drag you up here to the altar and say, right here's your remedy. Right here's what's going to fix you today. It takes you making that choice of getting up from that pew and coming to this altar and saying, Father, I need you today. And He knows what you have need of today. And I promise you, He's pinned it down in this book that there's nothing that we'll go through in our life but what He won't help us through it and see us through it and go with us through it. Everything in our life, every situation in our life, He'll be there for us. But Brother Frank, we have a choice. Oh, you don't have to choose Him. You don't have to. You can do your own thing, go your own way, and live your own life. And He said you could do that. But you go to Proverbs and you read that chapter in Proverbs where He said, I've called and I've called and I've called, but you refused. How many more 911 calls has got to go out to you before you respond? I'm begging you today. I don't know your heart. I don't know where you are today. And I know this is totally off the wall, a different type, probably. I did not anticipate going this route this morning. But the more I sat and thought about that this morning, how important is that 911 call in your life? How many times has the Heavenly Father got to knock on your heart's door? How many times has He got to beat on? Have you ever heard that? At the front door, and you jump up out of the chair, who in the world's beating on the front door? Let me tell you who's beating on your heart's door today. It's the one that knows you so well. It's the one that knows where you've been for a long time. And it's the one that knows what you have need of this morning. But it's the one that wants to help you, but you've got to be willing to receive the help today. The ball is in your court this morning. There's nobody in this church going to make you get up out of the pew and come and do anything at all, are they, Brother Caleb? It's a choice. The same choice that a little 9-year-old boy had sitting right here on the front row was, I had to make a choice. Would I accept him, or would I just blow that old preacher man off? And I made a choice that Sunday morning. One of the best decisions I ever made in my life, Brother Frank. The most important decision that I ever made was to say, I'll take Jesus. Blessed assurance. There's nothing more blessed assurance than to know that you can lay your head down at night when you close your eyes and God allows you to wake up and see another day. And when you get up, let me say this in respect, and just like some of those families yesterday, the last thing they expected was to meet death on the highway yesterday. Can I remind you that there ain't a single one of us sitting in this room that's promised tomorrow? You ain't promised to come back here next Sunday when your pastor's back and preaching his heart out and preaching to you to live right, do right, get saved and all those things. And you'll say, I'll just wait till next week. I'll just wait till Brother Brian's here and I'll come to the altar. Can I tell you today's a good day? If God's dealing with your heart, today is a good day to come and get things in order with Him. Because you may not have next week. Oh, let me say this in respect to, do you know how many 911 calls we answer in a week through our county? Do you know how many death notifications we give per week in our county? You see, it doesn't really register with us because it's not our family or it's not in our community. I promise you, there's going to come a day you're going to run out of time. Is your name written in that book this morning? Is your name pinned down by Him today? And Revelation speaks about that name and giving you a new name and a new stone and all those things. But it's so simple this morning. It's a yes or no question that you yourself have to answer today. Are you saved? Are you saved? Are you prepared should that day come? And we just get this mindset about us that day's, well, it's just never going to happen at my house. But it will. I promise you it will. That's what got me yesterday. There I sat smack dab in the middle of 4 cars, and they all went every direction but hit me. And I realized when I seen the seriousness of the situation, how close I was to being in that same pair of shoes. It could have been me they were screaming 911 for. This morning, God's screaming 911 for you. I'm begging you this morning, would you make that choice? Would you make that choice? That song number 346 that we sang, I know my name is there. I want you to leave out those doors this morning, and I want you to know that your name is written there. And there ain't nobody can fix that today but you and you alone. Okay? It doesn't matter what your status is in this church. I want you to know that your name is written there today. I want every single person in this building today to know that everything is 1,000% A-OK. No doubting. No, I think so, I hope so, or I believe so. I want you to know so today. Do you have that answer yet? Do you have that resolution yet? If you don't, would you just get up and come on to the altar and come, and I'd sure love to bow down and pray with you. And I believe there's a whole host of people that will come and gather on this altar and pray with you and for you today. And we'll stay right here till you get a resolution to that answer today. But it's up to you this morning. Brother Frank, there ain't a one of us can fix that for you. All I am is just a little messenger this morning that God sent by, and just to say there's a 911 call for you today, and there's help for you this morning. How many more times are you going to have to hear that 911 call for you today? Because there's going to come a day, and there's a little saying in our trade, in our field, and there's a last 911 call that comes. You know, when that last 911 call comes, it's when we're standing at a graveside in a cemetery, and they do the final call, and they send out a final call. And brother, I'm telling you, the last words that they say at the end of that call is, we'll take it from here. That person that final call goes out for, there ain't another call that they're going to ever answer or go on. Their work is finished. There's going to come a day you won't have the opportunity to come back in this church and sit down in a pew. There's going to come a day when you won't have the opportunity to sit and hear one more message. Just ask the rich man. He'll tell you if he could just sit in your seat this morning, he wouldn't wait for the end of the message today. He would have come running through the doors and saying, I'll just take Jesus today. How about it this morning? Would you come? Do you feel the need in your heart to get up and come pray this morning? Listen, I'm telling you, I believe with all my heart God is speaking to somebody's heart this morning. I believe this with everything in my soul. God's speaking to you today. Whatever your need is today, God knows what you have need of today. But it's up to you to choose Him this morning. It's up to you to make that choice in your heart of hearts today. And it will totally be your decision to make today. So how about it? Where do you stand with Him? When that question's asked, is your name in the book? Have you found that answer yet? Are you still flipping quarters about that? Or you still just don't know? It's a fixable problem this morning. He wants to save you, and He wants to help you today. You see, if I went down the road, Brother Caleb, I'd probably do this. I'd take that pen and I'd check everybody off. But you see, today I'm not the one going to do the checking. He is. And He knows. He knows the very secrets of the heart. He knows every detail about every single one of us this morning. My heart's desire is this morning that as you go out that door, that you know with an infallible doubt that everything is 1,000% okay with you. I want you to know that today. And I want you to be satisfied with that, because there's going to come a time you're going to be able to share that. And I want you to tell it with all the heart that you have of what Jesus done for you. Blessed assurance, Jesus is mine. Oh, what a foretaste of glory divine. But that song could have went, blessed assurance, Jesus could have been mine if I'd only listened and obeyed. Trust and obey is all you have to do. Why would you refuse that this morning? Why would you refuse what God has offered for you today? And He only wants to do what's the very best for us this morning, Brother Frank. I'm coming to a close. If you want to, come and get a song. You guys come with a song. And I want you, I know in my heart this morning you're still sitting right there flipping a quarter. Am I going to go? Am I not going to go? I'll tell you what Satan will do. He'll distract you just long enough. And you know what? Listen, church, all it takes is somebody just to do this right here. Just to tap you on the shoulder. Just to speak a word. Can I say this right here? The most important time in a church service is altar call. Because it's decision time. It's time that you have to make a choice. So be respectful of that when God is dealing with somebody's heart. If you do anything, just reach over and take them by the hand and say, would you like to go pray? And come and pray with them. Because it can be a life-changing factor for that person, Brother Caleb. Nobody had to reach and take me by the hand that Sunday morning. I know what I wanted that day. I wanted a resolution for the problem. This morning, do you seek Him in your heart today? Would you just make your way up out of that seat as they sang a song, a verse of invitation this morning? And I asked you to search your heart today. And I asked you to just see where you stand with the Lord today. And it is a personal choice between you and God today. How about it? Church, would you stand to your feet? Frank, would you all sing?